Welcome to the 13th episode of PAOK Talk. We are your hosts, Angelo and Jono. Jono, it's been a while. How are you, my friend?
Hey Angela, it has been a while. International break, as always, breaks up our rhythm. But yeah, it's good to be back, man. And we had a good win over the weekend, and we got a big game coming up midweek. So looking forward to having a chat about it all.
Yeah. And just before we begin, I just want to let everyone know listening that we did create a Twitter account for those that follow Twitter, and we're going to be posting stuff daily on there. Questions, polls, little segments. We're going to be doing one later. So just go give us a follow. It's PAOK_talk, just like our the Instagram and the YouTube page. So go check that out. Follow it, and just turn on notifications for every time we make a post. But yeah, let's jump into the PAS game from this weekend. We came away with a 2-1 victory. That is our third win in a row in the league. How did you see that game? How do you think we played? Obviously, the second half, we went down in the first half, 1-0. Then we came back and scored 2 goals. So give me your take for the game.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, it was an important win. I mean, coming off international breaks, it's always, the team can be a little bit sluggish, given they haven't all been together, and you get players coming back on different days, and some have had heavier workloads than others. It was an important game. Like you said, it was really a game of 2 halves. First half, we were quite poor, almost non-existent in attack. I mean, we had a couple chances towards the end of the half, but for the whole, we were poor. Credit to Bus, though. They press high, they run hard, they really put teams under pressure, and I know they're the only team to take points off Olympiacos and Ardis this year. So, I mean, they've gotten results against the other big teams and title contenders for the moment. So, credit to them. They're a good team, and they're tough to beat. So, but yeah, then second half turned it around. Garcia, for a second time, so we saw the PSV game. He made multiple changes at the half after a sluggish first half, and then completely turned the game on its head. So, I mean, I wanted to ask you about this. So he's made the triple change in the Bus game. So it's good that he's obviously identifying his mistakes, but It's also bad that he's making these mistakes in terms of the starting 11. I think the only mistake he made in this game in terms of the starting 11 was a City. Because we've said lots of times before that a City in games like this isn't really useful. It needs to be against, maybe a PSV away more so.
Right.
So are you seeing it as a good thing that he has the balls to make these changes, but he's also initially reading the game wrong. So what's your perception of him making these changes at the half?
I mean, from a coaching perspective, I mean, I don't mind that he's trying all new things. As a coach, he can't go into it with preconceived notions as to what certain players can do. Yes, there's film, but he's hoping that he's been given Biseswar a couple chances, especially that first PSV game, because he wants to see how he plays under his system, right? It's only fair. So I think he's just trying people in his system to see if they can play his style, and he's not afraid to, if it's not working, to make the change like you mentioned. I think it's actually gutsy that he's doing this, and he's not just staying with the same players as Ferreira, because then you could say, well, what's the real difference? Ultimately, he's trying to infuse his sort of playing style and his players to the formation that he wants, and he's made those mass substitutions at once, and that's great. I mean, he taking off Verinia pretty early, that's good, because you saw what things weren't going that well. And he's not afraid to ultimately, do what needs to be done to get that win. That was one of the things about Ferreira that we mentioned earlier on, is he sometimes waited way too long to make those substitutions. He would wait until the 70th, 75th minute to make a substitution, and by then it's too late, right? So, to answer your question, I think that, I'm fine with it. If this becomes a habit where he's doing it in game 10 as opposed to game 3 or 4, then we could question his starting 11. But for now, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think for the PSV game, he's going to play his best players to get a result on the road. I don't think he's going to be trying anything. But you have the Lamnia coming up. You have Asteras coming up in the league before a big away match at Aris. So maybe those are a couple of games that he could kind of try stuff. But then again, we don't want to fall behind too early, because how many times can we get lucky and come back with either penalty kick or a red card? So, but I think right now it's nothing to worry about, but we should keep an eye on it.
Yeah, no, and for what it's worth, I agree with you. I think I'd much rather a proactive coach who makes those changes early rather than later. I mean, as you said, I agree 100%. Not only Ferreira, but there are a lot of coaches in world football that kind of say, this is my style, this is my best 11, I'm going to keep them out there as long as possible before I make a change. And there are just games when it's obviously not working for whatever reason. So I'm with you. I'd rather a coach, and Garcia seems like that type that's like, nah, I'm going to change it now. I'm not going to waste 20 to 25 minutes of the second half hoping that something changes. I'm going to make the change. So
right.
I'm with you. And of those subs, El Kaduri off the bench again with a winner, again proving his worth to the team. I mean, I think a lot of fans. I think he had a lot of supporters regardless, but I think a lot of fans who weren't on his side have come around this season. He's had the positional change become full-time, so he's become a central midfielder, which appears to be his best spot. And he just changed the whole game. So he not only is a good player himself and can drive the ball, can play a pass and all that sort of thing, I think he makes Svab better. I think Svab with someone like a City next to him, I mean, it's just happened too often to be a coincidence. Svab has really poor halves or games when someone like a City, who's a destroyer in midfield, is next to him. I think El Kaduri makes Svab better. Svab has less to do. He doesn't have to carry the whole load of creativity from the midfield. So, I mean, those two are clearly our starting two in the 4-2-3-1 that Garcia seems to be favouring. So, El Kaduri, again, props to him. Nice goal, and yeah, just completely changed the game in my opinion and turned it to favour us. It's probably early in the season, but till now it's probably been our MVP. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely him. Zivkovic has come in.
Yeah.
Andre, he's come in and done really well. And then Zivko too, I guess you could say. Both Zivkovic's have played well, but I think El Kaduri is a safe bet for definitely most improved and definitely MVP. It'll be interesting to see if a team swoops in the winter, shows interest, what PAOK does then. Do you get rid of him? Same thing with Zivkovic. Do you get rid of him if a team swoops in? I mean, without these two players, I don't think we are where we are in the standings. I don't think we're in Europe. I'm right if I'm being completely honest. So, do you risk upsetting the harmony of the team? Because I think if you get rid of those two players, the way that we've been playing, then I could see us dropping to fourth or fifth. Pretty early on. I mean, would you agree that if we get rid of those two players, it's going to be tough to make a run at the top two of the Super League?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think either will be getting moved on in January. El Kaduri is out of contract at the end of this season, and I think for the most part they were content to kind of let him walk at the end of this season, but his performances has completely changed that, and we're hearing reports now that they're in negotiations to re-sign. I don't know if that'll happen, because every year he's been with us, he's been linked with a move back to Italy, where he spent a lot of his professional career. So, I mean, I don't know what will happen, but yeah, I think that I would keep him if he's willing to stay. The issue probably would be the money, because I think he's on a big contract. He's on a million or so euros a year. So I don't know if he'd be willing to take a pay cut. Same with Zivkovic. I mean, Zivkovic only signed a 2-year deal. So I doubt we'd sell him mid-year, maybe at the end of the year, and again, the contract sort of situation. But yeah, I think Zivkovic I think they'll both definitely stay. Given the way we're tracking, it looks like we're going to be in the title race into the second half of the season, and hopefully in Europe beyond Christmas. I'd say that both definitely be staying. So to move on to Adrian Pereira, so played at left back. You and I had discussed in our previous episode about him being left out. How bad could he be to be left out? Like, he's our only other senior left back in the squad. So I personally, I liked his game. I didn't think he was amazing, but I didn't think he was awful. I think it was a good, solid performance. he got forward. He put a couple of nice balls in. Solis had that post that was from the cutback from Pereira.
Yep.
So I really liked him, and I think he showed that as a backup to Yanuli, not a starter, as a backup, he has something to offer. He's good, like he's adequate. He has something to offer in games like, Bus at home, even next week against Lamia next weekend. So, I think he was fine. I think, we have a backup left back, and he doesn't look awful. That Volos game that he got thrown into at the start of the season was tough. There were so many changes to the team. It was his first game, so he looked a lot better and a lot more settled after some time with the squad.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously some better players around him. I don't know if you have anything to add on his.
No, I think you touched well. I think he's adequate enough backup left back for now, and hopefully he's someone who could, should we get rid of Yanuli or knock on wood something happens to him again, then he could slot in. He's not going to be anything like Yanuli in terms of attacking wise, but he's a serviceable left back, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great word, serviceable. I think that's exactly what he was, and he went for a scan overnight, actually. Apparently he had a bit of a knock against Bas, but apparently that scan came back clean. So it's just going to be a day-to-day thing, and hopefully he's fit for Lamia next weekend, because he can't play against PSV, right? They didn't register him on the European list. That was Ferreira's handiwork back in the summer. So we're going to have a makeshift left back, which we'll discuss a little bit later.
Right.
But on that, do you want to move on to the PSV game on Thursday night?
Yeah. So I think it's obvious that this is probably the biggest game of our, I guess you can say. So I'm looking for not qualification of our campaign. Right. Mm-hmm. It's the away game against PSV, and I think that if you're looking at the standings. Right, the rankings, we're in second right now. If we could obviously get a win, that'd be really, really huge. That would be huge in even going for first, right? But I think we said last episode how we should just try to get in first, and then in the first place, and then try to get first place later on. Right now we're on 5 points. Granada's in 7, PSV is on 3, and Omonia is on 1. Hopefully we could get a win here. I think it's going to be difficult. I think they're going to come out fired up after that drubbing that they got in Greece. The PSV players, anytime you go to away in Europe, it's never easy. And I think we've had many cases where that's been true. What's going to be interesting is, what formation what our style of play does Garcia want to do? Because you could say if I'm wrong, but I think he hasn't had to sit back any game, right? Against PSV, the first game, he kind of went all out, but not to start, I guess you can say. But I want to see if he could play the same defensive mindset as a Ferreira, right? Because do you think we could go in there and just go attack right away and it end well?
Nah, look, I don't think we can, but I don't think we will either. I think you even saw in the second half of the PSV game where he changed some personnel and it suited playing on the counter a lot more, and we just ripped them apart countering. So PSV's natural game will be to take the game to us, and then I think that, on the counter. So I thought he set us up defensively okay in that first half. Even in the second half, man, PSV they had 2 chances. They won a penalty and they had admittedly a one-on-one. So. Right. I think he's fine defensively. It's only a small sample size, so it will be interesting to see. But I think he can set up the team to play on the counter attack fine. Yeah,
you're right. Now that I was thinking about the first game. The goals we score were from the counter. We just finished our chances, and that's something that we're not doing in the Super League. We're getting chances, we're just not finishing. Then you go the PSV game, and I'm looking at it now. I want to see if I can find the stats. We only had 39% possession, but we had 11 shots, and we scored 4 goals off of 11 shots. That's a real good shot accuracy. PSV only had 5 shots; they scored 1. I think it'll be the same thing in terms of possession-wise. I'll let them have 60%. I'll let it be 60-40, 65-35. But, if we get those chances, we just have to execute.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the game will follow a similar pattern to the first one. I think that Garcia will have learned from his mistakes, so I think Solis will be in from the start. Solis, who showed in space, he's extremely dangerous. He's direct. He'll run at you. He'll get shots away. So I think he will start him rather than bring him off the bench. The midfield one is interesting. So in the first game, a City started, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
No, it was El Kaduri, Augusto, and Schwab.
Okay, my mistake. Um, well, the midfield's interesting, so I think he'll play a flat three rather than like a 4-2-3-1. So I don't think there'll be an obvious attacking midfielder. Now, Augusto hasn't trained for about a week or so. I read earlier that he's going to try to train fully tomorrow, so that'll probably determine whether he can play in Holland. Because if he is fit, then he'll probably start along with El Kaduri and Svab. Otherwise, it's going to be interesting to see whether he starts at City and then El Kaduri and Svab either side of him, kind of, as your number eights. I wouldn't mind a City starting this game. Like, I'd prefer the Augusto, Svab, El Kaduri 3. But, I mean, I'm not anti a City in this game where we're going to give up, the majority of possession. You still have the other two on the pitch who are capable of carrying the ball and creating.
Right.
So I think in a game like this, he's probably more suited. But I do think we'll see a flat three. I don't think there'll be a clear attacking midfielder. I think it'll be a combination of those four midfielders that we've just mentioned, as well as Solis, Svedevsky, and Zivkovic in the attacking in the attacking part of the pitch. And the only real question, in my opinion, is left back. What do we do there? First of all, do you agree with that midfield and attack?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think you got to go with Solis, Svedevsky, and Zivkovic. I don't think Cholak has shown anything. But, I mean, in a game like this, maybe Cholak is good. Someone who could hold the ball up top, right?
Well, in the first half against PSV, I think that was the same logic that Garcia had, and it did not work that way. So we found that we were trying to break into space, and we had guys that were just like slowing up the play too much. You had guys like flying up the wings, Januli, Zivkovic, and Cholak wasn't able to kind of keep up. And so no, I don't think Cholak will start. I think Cholak has, he's had a poor start and he's basically lost his spot. So as a starter, so
right.
I think Svedevsky will start.
Yeah, then I like that three. I mean, I hope it's the same three: Schwab, Augusto, El Kaduri. If not, then I mean, I'm fine with going to a City. It's more defensive, obviously, but in a game like this, where all we really need is a draw, I think that's fine. And then you have to wonder about who's going to be playing left back. Is it going to be a Crespo? I mean, obviously, because Januli is out, I don't think it's going to be Pereira. I don't think it's going to be a Vieirinha, obviously. So it's got to be a Crespo, right?
Well, the only other option is Lidatzis, who he played against Apollon before the international break. He played Lidatzis there. So it's one of those two. In terms of who it is, like, I'm not sure. Would you play Lidatzis? And Lidatzis got some minutes off the bench against PSV when we were admittedly 4-1 up. At left
No, I wouldn't. I would do Crespo.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's what he'll go with. He'll go with a safer option. As you said, a draw would be a good result for us. So Crespo with a centre back pairing of Varela Ingerson.
Mm-hmm. I think that's our best defensive lineup. That starting 11 that we just put out with the CT in.
Yeah, defensively, for a game like this where you're going to be away in Europe and not have the bulk of possession, I agree. You keep Crespo, keep that left side solid. Who would you play at right back, Rodrigo or Vagued?
Rodrigo.
Rodrigo?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Okay, that's fair.
I wouldn't trust Vagued yet.
Yeah, that's fair. So I'm with you. I think it'll be Crespo. If Pereira even if Pereira had been registered to play in Europe, I don't think he would have played.
Right.
I don't think that he's trusted, because we're talking about the midfield. Like, Nino was another option, but I don't think Garcia doesn't seem to trust him. I don't think he was in the squad in the end for the bus game even the other day. So it'll definitely be Crespo, I think, at left back, the same way I think it'll be a City if Augusto isn't fit. But I think the good thing is for the most part our 11 picks itself. I think having a stable 11 is important.
Yeah, and it is because they have to get they have to get used to each other with the style of Garcia. One more thing I want to touch on too is our last couple of games, besides the PSV one, obviously in the Super League, we've been getting lucky in terms of getting penalty kicks late in the game to get back into it, getting the opposing team getting a red card to get back in it. I am getting nervous to the point where eventually our luck is going to run out and we're not going to be getting these calls. I mean, how how do you feel about that? Do you feel like we're kind of getting lucky in winning these games? I know it's a sense of yes, our team never quits, but also, I mean, I feel like we're getting either a red card or penalty every game, right? I mean, if I'm going to try to go back while you're giving me your opinion on this and see how many goals in the run of play have we scored in the Super League. I want to see that because I know we've scored a free kick goal late in the game, Nanua. We scored two penalty kicks one game. We scored or then they got I guess you could say both goals were in the run of play last game, but it was kind of helped. The red card definitely helped. Would you say that that's something to keep an eye on?
Um, yeah, you know what? Something that also so in the Garcia era of the league, I think we've only scored two goals from open play in the league, not counting the PSV game.
Right.
So even the third goal against Panathinaikos, right after the Nunua free kick was a penalty, um, and the goal against Bus, you can argue the second goal, it is from a free kick, right? Cholak knocks it back across goal from the
Yeah.
free kick.
Yep. You're
So
right.
it was another set piece, basically. So it is a good point that you make. It's accurate. So I think we've only scored maybe two, if I'm counting correctly. I mean, have a look to confirm that, but I can only remember two goals from open play in
Right.
Garcia's reign in the league so far. It's only been three games, to be fair.
Right.
Yeah, look, I think you make a good point. I think that we are cutting it fine. It is a good sign that yes, we never give up and we have that winning mentality and that character that shines through right to the end. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, eventually your luck's going to run out. You're going to get a day where that chance doesn't fall for you, or you
Mm-hmm.
don't get that free kick or that penalty. Um, and yeah, so I think it's definitely something that needs to be improved on. I mean, as long as we're winning for the moment, I guess it's a new coach, so starting 3-0 in the league is never a bad thing. However,
Right.
those wins come, they come. So for now, I mean, you take the results, but yeah, I think moving forward, it's something that Garcia and his coaching team will be well aware of, and will be working on having games against this type of opposition one earlier rather than chewing their fingernails down to the bone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's do predictions. A loss all but certainly knocks out PSV from competition. I think it'd be too far for them to come back. So do you see them losing? Do you see a draw? How do you see it? I mean, they're coming off of a 1-1 game against FC Twente. They played away. They drew that 1-1. Before that, they had beaten Wilhelm 3-0. So they've only played two games since our game, but both they didn't lose any games. So how do you see this game going?
Yeah, it's a good point because, like you said, with a win, we basically knock them out. All we'd need, I think, would be a couple of draws or even one draw. I
Yeah,
think
one
was our
point. I think
head-to-head.
1 point. Yeah, they would need a team to either us or Granada to lose both, I believe, and then win the other two.
Yeah, so I mean, they need to win, and I honestly think that just plays into our hands more. I mean, don't get me wrong, PSV is a good team, but their league form this season hasn't been great. I mean, their European form has been patchy as well. They beat Omonia with a late goal with like
Mm-hmm.
a stoppage time winner.
Right.
They lost to Granada. They lost to us. I don't think that we'll lose this game. I'm going to pick a bulk victory. I just think that after seeing PSV in the first game, their style suits us on the counter. If Garcia starts Solis and starts Svedevsky and guys that are dangerous on the counter, we're going to get chances. And I think we're too good going forward with that type of space to not score one or two. Now, whether we win or not, I'm going to pick a win. I'm going to go 2-1 bulk, but I don't see us losing this game.
That's gutsy. Good for you. You've actually been more right, or you've been closer in the predictions so far than me. So I mean, I'm hoping so. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw. I could see us maybe taking a lead early on, and then us sitting back the whole time and giving up a cheap goal. I could see something where they take a lead, and we know that we, a 1-0 draw, 2-0, it really doesn't matter, because if it does end up tied, us and them, we have that 3-goal advantage. Correct? That's how it works. Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
as
right.
long as
So
we don't
they'd have
lose
to
by
beat us.
right, so they'd have to beat us by 4 goals in order for them to get a tiebreaker over us. So I think that's going to be in the back of our heads too. But I see a 1-1 game. I'm going to predict that we score maybe in the first half, and then they score in the second, and then we just hold off. And a draw would be great, but then we have that tricky game in Cyprus next, and then we end with Granada at home. That might be the game for, if PSV can get a win here, then that last game with Granada is going to be pretty much we win, we're in, we lose or draw, we're out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I mean, that'll be heart stopping stuff. If
It'll be like Greece Slovenia round 2, except no JVS for everyone to talk shit about. My boy. So you have a 2-1 victory. I have a 1-1 draw. Anything else you want to say about this game?
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. I think it's going to be an entertaining game, just because the styles match up well. So PSV are going to try to take it to us. Although I wouldn't be shocked to see them maybe be a little touch more conservative early, because they know that a loss and they're out. But I think their natural style is to take possession and push and pin teams back. So I think it'll be entertaining. I'm expecting similar to the second half of our first game, where it was end to end, and it was great viewing. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Good. All right. So we're gonna go on to a new segment we're doing. It was Jono's idea, so we're gonna be trying something new real quick. And let's just go to it. Jono, take it over, buddy. Go ahead.
Thank you, Angelo. Yes, this was my idea, and I've been pushing for this for a while. So yeah, basically we just had that iconic audio of Vieirinha before the Olympiacos game that never started, the Dinaftore. So we had the idea to pick a moment a week that's a real head scratcher, where a player or a coach makes a real bad error, a big howler that just makes you say Dinaftore. So our first nominee in this prestigious award, and we have a plan to kind of have a nominee once a week, and yeah, hopefully we'll keep track of everyone, and then maybe throw it to Twitter to a vote to see who gets the Dinaftor moment of the year. We'll organise a prize for him. So this week, our first nominee is Garu Svedevsky, our top scorer, our Polish striker. Top scorer this year, 5 goals in the league. He's come back into form after we criticised him earlier in the season, Angelo. I'm sure you remember.
Yep.
He, with the game on the line against Bus, 86th minute, tied at 1-1. We're pushing for that goal. A lovely ball comes in from the right side. Svedevsky somehow finds himself unmarked in the box, watches the ball, no pressure on him, lines up the header, and completely misses the ball from about 8 yards out. And to that, we say Dinaftore Svedevsky, because that was a shocker and could have cost. I mean, you have to make contact there. So a real poor error from Svedevsky, and thankfully didn't cost us. But yeah, I'm sure that's a moment that he would like to have back.
Oh, that was just ugly, and it was even closer than 8 yards. I think it was inside the small little box too. That had to have been that was like 6 yards, 5 yards away. And not only that, but if you notice and you go back to watch the game, he looks up at the lights and he points to the lights like it's the lights' fault. Right? I mean, I've never seen someone in a soccer. I've seen it in baseball, because the ball gets really high up and it gets stuck in the lights or in the sun or whatever. I've never seen in a soccer game someone complaining that the ball got in the way of the lights. I mean, I couldn't tell if it was that high of a cross. I think it was just a normal cross. I mean, if it doesn't get caught in the light for punts, right? I mean, but it was. Then he looked up immediately after, and I think they showed Schwab after, and Schwab is just looking at him like, "What the hell, mate? Like, what was that?" And yeah, that was really really bad. And that and the Akbom one from earlier this year, I believe it was this year, the where it was point blank and he just missed. I think that those were, if we did it earlier in the year, I think those would be pretty close. But yeah, you can't. I mean, you're a professional striker, right? For a really good team, you can't be missing those chances.
Yeah, and I agree. It's definitely one that he would want back. And yeah, I think Akbom's been saved by us not doing it so early in the year because I don't mean there would have been no point doing it for the rest of the year because I don't think anything would have topped that. But you never know.
Right.
And Svedevsky, we love you. He has turned his form around, and that's coincided with us getting wins again. So well done to him, and hopefully he continues on Thursday. But that's our first installment of Dinner Floor. How do you reckon it went, Angelo?
I think it went great. I think hopefully, if you guys listen to this, you could send us a tweet, send us other moments throughout the year that maybe we could make fun of them for, and it'll be all fun and games. Yeah, so good job thinking that. I think that was pretty awesome.
No worries, man. I'm full of ideas. All you gotta do is just tap me on the shoulder, bro, and I got you.
There you go. You're gonna take my job pretty soon. You and Pasalis are gonna come around and try to steal my job, but that's fine. I'm the one with the audio setup, even though it's not great, but I'm the one with it. So thank you all for listening. This was a quicker episode. Wanted to get it to you guys tonight, and you'd be able to listen to the whole thing, so you're not just taking 45 minutes out of your night. I hope you enjoy this week's game in the Europa League. I hope that we get the victory and we have something to cheer about, for our next episode. Thank you all for listening. As I mentioned earlier, we have created a Twitter, so please follow us there at PAOK_talk. We're on Instagram with the same name, and then obviously this can go on YouTube. We'll be looking at maybe transitioning to some sort of podcast kind of setup, so be on the lookout for that. We are your hosts, Angelo and Jono, and we hope you have a wonderful night/day, whichever part of the world you're living in, and stay safe.